being back with us. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about was how do you deal with so many formats and so many deliverables? I know
it's my job.
I feel like when it comes to post-production, that's kind of like the hardest thing to deal with.
Well, I recently produced a documentary, and in producing a documentary, we were dealing with photographs, 8mm material from someone's personal library that had to be retransferred. You're dealing with people's VHS family footage, you know, from their family cameras. You're dealing with modern footage from maybe modern interviews. And part of it is you expect in documentaries people to be a little forgiving, right? I mean, you do clean up film footage, and we did clean up the 8mm and get rid of the hairs and scratches and all that sort of stuff that showed up to make it look better, because that was the style the producer wanted. But at the same time, you know, you have people shooting footage with their iPhones, and how's that going to intercut with this beautiful red 2K footage or 4K footage that you just shot? Sometimes you have to degrade footage to make it match. I won't lie. I've been in places where we've degraded footage to make it match this fabulous iPhone shot. And sometimes you have to let the footage go. You just can't cut it, and you have to let it go. Or you have to go ahead and cut it in and cross your fingers that the audience is there for the story and not for the footage. And Brothers McMullen, which is a rather old movie, they shot it over a series of years. And so there's different formats that were intermingled there. The story was so good, the audience didn't care. They didn't care. And the story of the filmmakers was so good that the audience didn't care. So you have to sort of depend on your audience to be intelligent enough to let certain things go sometimes, you know? I think it's harder if you're making a film over a number of years. Like if you're in the midst of making the next Hobbit and all of a sudden we go from 4K to 8K or from, you know, HD to 2K, and you're a certain length along in the process. Now it's a little easier. It's all data. But then it wasn't quite as easy. You know, if you're working in HD or film and you've got to suddenly create digital effects in 4K. It takes a lot longer, it's a lot more expensive, bigger frame, more frames.
Cool. The last thing, I heard that one time you were shooting in an Amish territory. Can you elaborate on that story?
We had a really interesting production that I worked on, and the story was actually about an Amish family. It was fictional. And there was a thresher, a historical thresher from the turn of the century that they sent in technicians to get running because we weren't shooting in North America, and there was the remnants of it. They got this beautiful, amazing thresher from the turn of the century up and running. It was gorgeous. They shot beautiful shots of DP. I mean, everything was just perfect. They didn't take a sound person to the shoot. They saved money that day because they didn't take a sound person to the shoot.
Oh my God.
And that couple of $100s that was saved that day ended up costing a great deal of time in post-production and the imagination of a very fine editor who created the sound of that historical thresher cutting that wheat on that day, or cutting, I think it was hay maybe, that day in that field. And the fact of the matter is, had somebody been standing back and thinking about post-production that day, or if I had been in that country when they were shooting, I would have said, we aren't taking sound, right? You know?
Right, exactly.
There is going to be a sound guy there because I don't see one on the call sheet here, you know? That's one of those places where production was so involved with the beauty and the excitement of having this thing up and running that everybody just forgot about sound. What are they going to need it for? They're going to put music over the shot anyway. Well, there was music over the shot, but in the end, the particular director and a foreign country wanted the sound of that thresher.
Well, great. And it was a pleasure having you, and hopefully we'll have to have you again.
Thank you.